I want to talk about what's going on with China and cheap steel. Are they dumping it here? Is our government investigating it? There's a lot of questions that needs to be asked about this most important issue. Let's go to you, Richard, first. Is there a secret steel investigation going on?
A secret investigation?
Yeah.
Well, if it was a secret one, we wouldn't know.
Is there any investigation?
Well, there should be. There absolutely should be. The thing is, you know, we've known, well, we're told by reliable sources that these companies have been approached by agents in China saying that there are, you know, pressures that can be made if we go and investigate the possibility that, you know, the quality of the steel is perhaps dubious or the business practices have been dubious. So if there's not an investigation, there needs to be one because that needs to be transparent. We need to get the facts about this. And the other issue really is about the steel itself. Why are we importing steel from China? We've got a steel mill at Glenbrook. We've got people who work in that steel mill.
Because we have a free trade agreement. We've got a free trade agreement with China. We've
okay, and if we've got a free trade agreement with China and they are, you know, not respecting either the letter or the spirit of it, why are we not looking into this?
It's what happens. Well, what do you think about what Richard said there? This is a damning issue for the national government, isn't it?
Not at all, Wallace. Look, I think for a start, Richard's so-called reliable sources are completely unreliable. Fonterra have come out.
In what sense?
Fonterra's global trade director has come out and said that it's absolute rumour. There's no basis for the story. It's actually irresponsible journalism, in my view, Wallace.
Not what's been reported. That China has been to some of the, like Zespri, for example.
Well, Zespri have said it's based on scuttlebutt from a commercial source. The Chinese government is saying it's not the case. Our officials from MFAT met with the Chinese embassy on Monday and they've said this is not the case.
Let me ask you, Paul. I mean, Joe Biden is coming in tonight, not the show, which I wish he was here. But are we part of a US-led alliance to target Chinese steel exports?
Not at all. China is a very important trading partner for us. We have something like $22 billion worth of two-way trade in the most recent statistics. It's very important. America's at 16 billion, Europe's at 20 billion, Aussie's at 24 billion.
Paul, this is happening around the world. They're dumping their steel into other markets. It's happening here as well, isn't it?
Well, as with any commercial issue, if there's a product that's not up to spec, people have the option whether they want to pay the bill or not or go to a different supplier. But we don't want to hit our valuable dairy exports
Chris, what do
to
you
China.
make of what Paul said?
Well, I think that the thing we need to really think about is if you put all of your eggs in one basket, or in our case, all of our milk powder in one basket, we're going to be more exposed to these kind of things. We need to diversify the New Zealand economy more. We need to make sure we're growing other export markets so that we're not completely beholden to one particular economy for a large part of our export sector.
Who knew what when? Is the government not letting on the whole story, do you think? Do they know it? Do they know a bit more than they're letting on?
Look, I don't know, and I don't really care. What I want to know is that the officials are doing their job. So if there are allegations, they should be looking at them. I think that somehow this has probably ratcheted up a little bit faster than it needed to, and it probably has been blown out of proportion a little bit. And we do need to be careful about that.
Is this New Zealand first that's sort of ratcheting it up?
No, I think that it's been ratcheted up outside of the political arena.
So what would you like to see happen, Richard?
Well, I think there's the point here that the government obviously knows more than it's letting on, but less than it should.
In what sense? Explain that. Explain that.
If there's nothing to hide about this, then no one's going to shy away from an inquiry. You know, let's get some transparency here. Let's have a look at the facts. People say things behind the scenes that they won't say on camera, they won't put their names to it, those sort of things. But if there are allegations that hold water, that stack up, that go along with a sort of a theme of not dubious business practices, but a particularly aggressive way of doing business, that we need to be able to face up to that. Chris is quite right. We need to diversify not just the economy, but the markets that we sell into. So
do you agree with that? Do you reckon that we do need to diversify? Do you take Chris's point that we actually need to?
Absolutely, and I think I made that point. We sell equivalent amounts to China, to Australia, to the EU, and to the US. We have very diversified trade. That is important. But this is trumped up story based on rumour. It's important that journalists actually check their facts.
Winston Peters says that the Chinese could be secretly listening. That's what he says. What do you make of that?
Well, any country has their intelligence capability.
What do you explain that for us?
Oh,
do you reckon that?
I think he was making the point that they found out before a lot of the media, a lot of official people in New Zealand found out. So they found out from somewhere. Either they were told deliberately by...
So they're secretly listening? That's in their press release.
Yes, that's right. Either they were told deliberately by people who were in the know, or they had some other way of finding out. So they found out, this we know, they found out by one mechanism or another. Was it an official dissemination of that information, or did they find out through some other channels?
I just want to sort of, Hayley, maybe around the audience, I mean, this idea of actually what Richard says, we've got steel mills here. We've got the capacity to manufacture steel at home. We've got some great steel workers. Do you think we should make more steel at home and actually disregard perhaps the Chinese steel? I mean, Hayley, what do you reckon?
Well, what do I reckon? Of course we should buy New Zealand steel, but do you think we should say that we have to?
I don't know, no.
The thing is with the dumping, if it was you, would you get the cheapest steel you could get if you were building a big project?
Yeah, you would try and cut costs. Yeah, you would try and get the cheapest steel you could, as long as it is the right quality. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, you would. So do you think that this issue highlights the fact that maybe, as Chris Hitkin says, we're putting all our milk powder in one basket?
Yeah, he's completely right. Yeah.
There you go, Chris, you're right, apparently.
All right, very, very good. Thank you, Hayley. I mean, does it really matter? It doesn't really matter if the Chinese, Chris, are offloading their extra steel onto countries like Aotearoa. Does it really matter in the end?
Well, yes, it does, and we have trade agreements around all of these things, and I think we've got a duty as a country to make sure that that the countries that we're trading with are complying with the agreements that we have with them. But that's just a regular part of day-to-day government.
It just doesn't sound like that sort of into the issue. I mean, to me, this sounds like a very severe issue. The fact that, I mean, this could threaten our trade interests. What would Labor do if you're in government? What would it do? If it spilled over to next year, what would you do?
Well, the first thing we would do is actually get some facts, rather than simply make decisions based on assertions or rumours, because I don't think that that's going to be constructive to our relationship with anybody.
All right, what would you do?
Well, look,
going forward from here.
Okay, New Zealand First already has a Buy New Zealand First policy, and that's for government procurement contracts. And of course, there's a lot of government money going into the casino there, which is taking 8,500 tonnes of Chinese steel.
Those days are gone.
The days may be gone. They could come back as well. There's a lot of public sentiment in support of that. Wallace, the thing is, you said yourself, we've got this high quality steel refinery at Glenbrook. We've got an iron sand resource. We've got a process for turning that iron sand into steel, which is almost unique in the world.
So,
it was developed for us.
trade-wise, New Zealand First builds a wall.
No, we don't build a wall.
You build a wall.
No, we look
and
after.
You trade within ourselves.
We look after New Zealand and New Zealanders and New Zealand businesses first. Simple as that.